If you're using subtitles to learn a language, you're sabotaging your own progress. Today, I'm going to explain why you shouldn't use subtitles and what you can do instead. I'm going to start with the second one because it's pretty obvious. Don't use subtitles, watch your content without it, and you will benefit tremendously. When you're watching a show with subtitles on, there's two different scenarios. Scenario one, it's your native language subtitles. So let's say I'm trying to learn French, and so I watch a French show with English subtitles. Scenario two is using the target language subtitles. So I'm watching a French show with French subtitles. Let's start with scenario one. Your brain is not yet used to the French language, and so you're struggling to understand. But you know what helps you understand really, really easily? Those subtitles at the bottom of the screen. In fact, they're so easy, you can look at those and just glance at the rest of the screen and know what's going on. You can probably watch that show on total mute because you have enough information to understand. You can try to force yourself to listen to the language. You can try really hard to actively hear what they're saying and then read the subtitles and glance at the screen and put that all together to give you context to help pick up the French language. But you can only do that for a couple minutes because that's so intense and really difficult. And there's an easy solution right there. Just simply read and watch. Your brain will default to doing what's easy. It will eventually start just focusing on what's really easy because it got really tired and start tuning out the French language. That's why there's so many people who, for example, they love anime and watch a lot of anime with subtitles, and yet they can't speak any Japanese. They might know some words. They're a little bit more familiar with the language compared to someone who's never watched anime. I would confidently assert that someone who watched anime with English subtitles for 10 years or more would know less Japanese than someone who had just spent 6 months studying Japanese. Although I will also claim that that person who watched anime for 10 years, if they decided to seriously study Japanese, they would have enough familiarity with the language flow that they would pick it up much easier compared to someone with no background like that at all. You need to force your brain to adapt because it's so lazy. Now, scenario two, try to learn a French show with French subtitles. Now, why do subtitles hurt your language learning progress? It comes down to the fact that humans have very limited processing power, and we're not naturally gifted at multitasking. It's very, very difficult to do. Let me give you an example. Do you remember what it was like to learn how to drive? There are so many things happening at the same time. You have to move your hands this way while your feet are moving on a certain way. You need to pull this lever, press that button, press the turn signal, turn, be aware of everyone and everything around you, stay in your lane, maintain accurate speed. There's a lot of things happening all at the same time. And when you're not skilled at all of these things individually, trying to put them all together is just mind-blowingly difficult. Now, as you get more and more skilled, you're able to start automating all of these tasks because humans are good at that. We are good at automating these individual tasks and eventually chunking them together so that you are able to do all of these things while maybe having a conversation with someone in the passenger seat. But even experienced drivers have situations that are so difficult, they can't do that. We've all been in those situations where we're driving and we're trying to look for a parking spot in an area we've never been in before. And there's a guy behind us who's like, wants you to go faster and he's honking his horn and you're getting stressed out and there's pedestrians walking around and you turn down the music to help you see better. Even if you're just trying to do a traffic merge and your friend is talking to you, you're pretty much going to ignore them as you're looking over your shoulder, watching for all of the cars, checking your mirrors to make sure you don't get into an accident. And then after you merge successfully and safely, then you resume the conversation. This runs into the issue where I was talking about with the cars earlier, the processing power. You're listening to a language that you're not quite good at yet. And so your brain is trying to figure out what's going on. And then you're trying to read it at the same time. The reality is that reading and listening are different skills. They do overlap, but not as much as you would think. Someone who, let's say, got fluent in a language by doing lots and lots of reading won't necessarily be able to fluently listen to a language and still understand. Listening and reading are fundamentally different skills. They each require their own processing power to do effectively. And when you're struggling to learn a language, especially as a beginner, you probably can't even read fast enough before the subtitles disappear and the next ones come in. And even if you were able to read it fast enough, are you able to process it and understand what was actually said and what was actually meant? And even if you could process what happened, do you have time to actually actively listen to what they said, how they said it, watch the rest of the screen? All of your processing power is going to be focused on the reading. And so watching a French show with French subtitles converts it from a listening exercise into a reading one. But it's not even a reading session with the advantages of reading. You know, if I went to go and practice reading, I can go at my own pace. I can read sentences over and over and reread things and look up words as necessary. If you're watching a show, you can technically do that by rewinding and read it over and over again, but it kind of that's not fun. That's kind of a given with reading, but when you're listening to a show, it's part of the fun of watching a show is enjoying it. And you're not going to be able to do that if you're constantly rewinding and looking up words. It's going to break your immersion. It's effective, yes, but it's not fun and not that well sustainable. If you just listen to a show, even if it seems incomprehensible to you, trust me, your brain will start to put the pieces together. Your brain wants to understand. And so it will start picking up words, and with the context provided from the show's actions, the character's tone of voice, the plot line and the situation and the gestures, you will start figuring out the patterns. You will start adapting to the speed at which they're speaking. You will start to realize which words are particles and which words are vocabulary words. And even if you don't know how to use the particles or what the vocabulary words mean, you'll still get the ability to pick them out of a sentence and kind of intuitively learn how to use them. There are many particle words that are just like that we get an intuition for just simply by getting used to the language. For example, in English, I don't know if I ever was actually taught the vocabulary definition of the word the. I don't even know if I can define it well for you right now. Actually, I can't when I think about it. But I can use it fluently in a sentence, and I can understand it when it's spoken to me fluently in a sentence. Humans just simply do not have enough processing power to focus on all these different things at the same time, such as reading while listening. The interesting thing about that is, though, we can watch while listening pretty effectively. And the reason for that is because we are designed to do that. That's what we have been doing for millions of years. Sitting around a campfire, watching while listening to people at the same time. It's intuitive human behavior. Not only that, but the watching part of things is language independent for the most part. There are some gestures, such as the middle finger in English, which means a certain thing, but general body language, you can kind of understand even without words spoken. Reading is a modern invention. It's a very specific skill that's unique to each language. And so that is a skill that you need to develop on its own. Now, some people might say they leave the subtitles on, but they're focusing on listening and not really looking at the subtitles and just quickly glance when they want to understand the word. I think that's okay. It kind of depends where you're at on the language. If you're already advanced and you have a high level of reading and you can actually very quickly scan and understand the whole sentence and then still listen, I think that's reasonable to do. I think that's okay. I still think it would be better to focus only on the listening. Or at the very least, I would only do it if a word comes up over and over again and you just haven't picked it up. In which case you might even rewind once in that whole session. Like, okay, let me go back. I heard that word a couple times. Let me read what the subtitle for it is to get a better understanding. I think that's okay to occasionally do. But let your brain do the work for you. Just by watching a show, even if you're not trying to actively study or listening, being in that immersed language environment, full French, coming right to your ears and to your eyes, will develop your brain to figure out the patterns behind French and allow you to learn it so much more efficiently and effectively in a way that you'll be able to use yourself later.